Today, we're doing a webinar on strategies and predictions for the H-1B fiscal year 2025 cap season by OnlineVisas and Velie Law, Velie Global Law Firm. And today we're joined by immigration attorney Jon Velie, esteemed immigration attorney with 30 years of experience. I'm going to pass it over to you. I don't want to talk too much today. We're all here to hear your
Right.
thoughts, predictions, and strategies.
Okay. Thanks, Pierre. I appreciate it. Welcome, everyone. Pleasure to be here today, and kind of perfect timing. We'll get into it in a second, but it looks like the USCIS dropped a final rule today on H-1Bs. Most of you have probably heard about that. Some of you may not. It happened late this afternoon, but we'll go into that. The purpose of today's webinar was to kind of talk about what do we think is going to happen. Some of the things that when we had arranged this webinar, we're going to be guessing about some of the things that happened today. So I want to kind of just jump into that. What I'd like to do, and Pierre, if you'd be a timekeeper for us, I don't want to go any farther than 6:30 Central on what I'm going to talk about. And then I want to open it up for 10 minutes of questions. So we'll end at 6:40 Central, and whatever time that is in your time zone, if you're not Central Time Zone. All right, so let's, I'm just going to go and share my screen and get right to the guts of what we're talking about. Okay, so today, USCIS announced the final rule and really what it's going to be doing with registrations. So the key thing is there's some takeaways on that. Takeaways are the registration process will still be $10. The registration process is going to be a little bit different. I think it's still going to be registered by the company. But what they talked about, let me find it in here, is that registration is going to be beneficiary centric, right? When we were planning on talking about this, oh, here she is. We were planning on talking about this with Yesh, another attorney in our firm. We were looking at the rumors, right? And the rumors were, hey, they were going to make this beneficiary centric, and we were talking about how are they going to do that. So right now you can see the H-1B registration final rule. It contains provisions that will create a beneficiary centric selection process. What does that mean? All right, so under this process, it's going to be selected by unique beneficiary rather than registration. And I guess that means that a beneficiary can only be picked once, even though the registrations will still happen by the company. So more than one person can register, or more than one company can register for the beneficiary, but the beneficiary is going to have to provide certain other things, such as a passport or travel document, whatever one they intend to use when they enter the United States. So what you want to be careful of, employers, is if you have somebody with 2 different or 3 different nationalities, which one are they going to use? That's what you want to have. And what a travel document is if they don't have a passport, is the most official or the official governmental document they have, and the number on that. So there's also a couple other things. They're also clarifying clarifying the requirement regarding the requested employment start date on certain positions subject to congressionally mandated H-1B caps to permit filing with requested start dates that are after October 1st for the relevant fiscal year, consistent with current policy. We'll get into a little bit about what that means. I'm not quite sure. Yesh, are you with us?
I believe Yesh is.
Jon, can you hear me?
Yes, there you are. Okay, so look, we were talking about what we thought might happen, and one of the things that we had in our conversation is they might do this beneficiary-centric process, and you and I were talking about, well, does the beneficiary register, or does the
employer or the petitioner would register?
So yes, the petitioner is registering. We just talked about that. What do you think it's meant by USCIS is also clarifying requirements regarding the requested employment start date on certain petitions subject to the congressionally mandated cap to permit filing with requested start dates that are after October 1st. What do you think that means?
I'm actually not sure. I'm actually reading or actually researching into it. That's why I was a little late.
So what that might mean, and we're going to keep you guys up. We're going to do more webinars as we get closer. So keep coming with us. Right now, all of us are reading this for the first time. What I think it means, right, and don't hold me to this, we're still learning it for the first time, is that the reason that we filed H-1Bs on April 1st is because you can file a visa up to 6 months prior to the start date, right? And so remember, a couple of years ago, before the registration, you'd have to file on April 1st or within the first 5 days, because if you were after that period, then all the H-1Bs would be gone, right? So they let you file between April 1st and April 5th. And then if you got them in, then they would do the lottery from that. And that's when we had to file the whole case, pay all the filing fees and stuff like that. Well, then they went to the registration. And when the registration happens, then if they select you, you have 90 days to file, right? So I bet it's something along those lines, right? So if you aren't filing until June 30th, you really have to have a start date of October 1st. We'll look into that. I think it's going to be something around that. And it looks like you're going to be able to select a start date after October 1st, but we don't really know what that clarification is. Okay, that's it. Registration going to be beneficiary centric, meaning you're going to have a passport or a travel document. It's still going to be made by the company. The company is going to be able to, the beneficiaries are going to be able to have more than one company petition for them. And that's what's going to happen. It's also going to be $10. All right. Now, there is new news. There will be a new I-129 form. And there will be new filing fees for I-129. Okay, so the thing is to follow this link right here, if I can. How do I follow this link yet? Oh, let me follow the link. Hold on, guys. Okay, wait, is that it? Yeah, it's okay. Not that. Right.
Yes,
there.
the fee schedule.
Can you be letting these folks in here, or am I just up to it?
That link actually seems to be blocked. I think USCIS.
I watched it. I mean, I looked at it. Okay, it's all right. I'll just talk about it. Okay, so if you follow this link, guys, this is USCIS is announcing this. Strength and integrity measures for the H-1B. They are increasing the fees. They are adding about a $320 fee, it looks like, on top of what they had. So from $470 to $7.
Oh, right here.
You got it? What are you looking at here?
Yeah. See, it actually became unpublished.
No, you click on it. You click on it anyway, right?
Right, there we go.
You see it that I can't.
Yes.
Okay. Why don't you share and I'll take them through it. So you look at the unpublished one. It's going to be published tomorrow. It's going to be published tomorrow. And I don't know what happened here.
So it's a long doc.
What's that?
It's a long document.
I know. Just I'll tell you. Just share your screen, and
yes.
I'll take the folks through it and show them what we want to look at.
Okay, so we'll stop this.
We'll stop sharing. There we go. Okay. So let's scroll down. There's a chart at the bottom. If you go all the way down to the chart right there. Okay. So let's go. We want to go to the I-129.
129.
You're going in the wrong direction. Go
Yeah.
up.
I believe it'll be like 780 if I haven't.
There we go.
Right here. Okay. So the little bit up, there's more I-129s. Okay. Stop right there. Stop.
H-1B. There we go.
Okay. So the I-129 for H-1B, those are H-2Bs. Keep going up here.
There we go.
Seven.
H1.
Okay, yeah, that's it. Okay, so how to read this? H1 and small employers. Small employers are less than 25 employees. If you read this chart, you have the current fees, that's today, 460s. The NPRM was a proposed rulemaking memo, and then the final fees is what it's going to be, right? So if you go down that chart and you look at the H1 classification, we're going from 460 to 780, which means it's $320 more, or a 70% increase. For the H-1Bs, for the small employers and nonprofits, they were going to make it 780, but they only made it 460 for it to be the same, right? So that's what you're going to do there, but there still are the additional fees. So that's not the total fee. So remember, if you are the ACWIA fee and the final on the fraud, anti-fraud fee, those are still there. The ACWIA fee, as you recall, is $1,500 for more than 25 employees and $750 for less than 25 employees. So those remain the same. So basically the filing fees are going to jump by $320 for the bigger companies. Okay. So could have been worse, but that's what they're saying. This will be a final rule tomorrow. Technically, it's not a final rule today. So what else we do? Let's go back to the original memo. Now you can just go back.
Yes. 1 second.
Yeah.
I'll pull that up right for you.
So the original memo, again, big things are $10 registration fees. Employer still registers. You're going to need to put in passport numbers of the passport the employee wants to use. When they get there, it's going to be employee centric. That's how they're going to track that. So if you have different passport numbers, that may be a problem. And they're going to add filing fees to the H-1B of $320 for the bigger companies. And then they're going to have a new I-129 that will have a start date of April 1st. All right, so that's what we know. I'm going to go into kind of things to be worried about, right? Concern. Well, let's see if there's anything else in here we want to talk about. And if you got questions, please ping them. And Pierre, if you collect those so
Absolutely.
that we can get to them, we can do that. So let's see what we got here. The I-907 may have a new addition. And a new filing fee. We got to look at that. So these are things to be aware of. Again, this is going to be the first of our series of webinars. Today is a breaking day. That this was all dropped. We will know more things in the coming days. So if you see here at the bottom, as a reminder, USCIS recently announced a final rule to increase the I-907. Why don't we click on that and see what that says? So 907, as you know, is the premium processing, and the premium processing, you know, not a lot of people file premium processing for cap-based visas because they take a while to happen anyway. They usually do that for certain amendments and things like that. Now, the H-1B, as you know, you can start working on the new H-1B if it's a substantially same position. So a lot of people don't do premium processing. When they do premium processing, it's because maybe somebody's out of the country and they need to get it approved. They can get through the consulate. So those are some things right there. Oh, another thing, they're going to have online filing, right? Online filing of both the I-129 and 907s for the H-1B. This will be new. It'll be interesting to see how that happens and if they roll it out that we can play around with it prior to having to deal with the cap season. So that's exciting. That should save a number of different things. Number one, you'd be able to file it up until the very last day, right? So you get at least an extra day. I know for us, we did 80 H-1Bs on the last day. That was crazy. We had our airport had a FedEx at it that was open till 8:30 at night, and I remember jumping in my car, you know, at about 10 till 8 and driving 100 miles an hour to get in a huge bunch of those visas. So being able to file on the last day is critical. Now, of course, when does the last day end? That'll be all known. Is it going to be 12 midnight? Is it the, I don't know. I'm assuming it will. Other things, yeah, there was all sorts of tricky things that we had to do. Sometimes we had to, on that day, get somebody to courier it in to USCIS. We had those nightmares, but we were able to do that. But, deadlines are real. And if you don't get them in time, you just lose. So interesting thing. So I think online filing's definitely a good idea.
Yeah, John, how does the online filing really make this process more convenient?
Well, I mean, it can save you money on copying charges, right? We had to bring in like 3 extra copiers last year, right? We had assemblers going nuts. We have a cool technology. We have like visas.ai, and if you guys ever want to see it, in ours we have an assembly station, right? So we can put our entire case with all its exhibits up on the in our assembly station. So what we're able to do is, in the old style, we would download those and copy them and put them in the FedEx envelopes and take them up there. So now we'd be able to take that entire package, and depending on how they kind of structure it, I don't know if they're going to have you do the form separately and do the documents attached. We'll see how it is. But, if we're able to do it in one PDF, that'll be fantastic for us in the use of our technology at visas.ai, because we can build the whole visa with the brief and employment letters and all those things together in addition to the forms. That's what we do. So we've been able, that allowed us to do so many more visas when we're doing them. This is even going to be better for us. Our system's really built for something like this, and we're very excited. So thanks, Pierre. Good question. Yes, we had some conversation last week prepping for this. Rumors of what's going to happen for the next H-1B season, notwithstanding the online filing, the registration costs, and the filing fees. Any rumors that you're seeing out there?
I think this announcement debunked a bunch of them.
Right.
The registration fees and stuff. I think we've covered, those were the basic ones that we were discussing. Now,
Oh, by
I
the
think
way,
there was a talk about, oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, sorry. I just wanted to ask you, you had a lot of rumors that you read about the fraudulent double filing. So multiple filing, so now it's more preventable. And I wanted to know, how does the online filing affect employers in any positive way?
I think that's what I was gonna raise as well. Like,
I'm not quite
with
sure.
the multiple registrations, quote unquote, I believe it might lay to rest some of that, the stress that people might have, saying, what, if they're allowing different employers to register for one single beneficiary. And then when one person gets picked up, everyone gets notified. I feel like that might help the beneficiaries in a way, because they could come back and say, well, I can go to whichever employer has a bona fide job offer. Does it help with
This is the
registration?
classic. Government has created this problem in a couple of ways.
Yeah.
Number one, by having caps. Number two, by creating the system, by having the petitioner register, as opposed to having a beneficiary register, get selected, and then go pick their employer. That would have been the solution, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you're still having to register people. You can still have double registrations, right? It's crazy. I don't understand why this was the solution out of all the potential solutions. If the thing is, we're going to have 65,000 visas plus the 20,000 for advanced degree professionals, why not give everybody that registers as a beneficiary the lottery, and then they go pick who they want to hire them. If they can't find a job, then it goes back in, right? And then they pick the next guy who can, or woman who can find the job. This is just asinine as
that would make more sense. I think logically it would make it's a logistical nightmare the way that they have it now, because it's like forcing people to play against the odds. So they're actually approaching and trying to get as many registrations in.
It's not going to reduce. I don't see how this reduces double registrations at all. I mean, because at the end of the day, here's what you got. Beneficiaries are allowed and should be allowed to apply to as many companies that would hire them, right? It'd be like saying you can only interview with one potential employer, right? This isn't even an interview, right? I mean, I guess it's an interview enough to get a registration, but this isn't like if you get the interview, you get the job. You get the interview through it, you get to register. And the reason why it's not a full interview is because registering obviously doesn't give you the right to get an H-1B. Only winning the lottery gives you the right to the H-1B. And then you got to get the H-1B, and then you got to show up for work. And anything can happen within that really long period of time. Company can go out of business. Anything can happen, hire somebody else, whatever, right? I mean, so this is it's right that the beneficiaries should be able to do it, but these beneficiaries are nervous, as they should be. You know, like when you have 800,000 people applying for this many spots, it's a minuscule percentage of people being picked up. So what they're doing is they're increasing their odds, as they should, by going to as many people that would hire them as possible. And USCIS is just looking at this in a completely wrong way. They've created a problem, right? And then they've created a problem within a problem by trying to enforce the problem for the one reason that too many people registered. And then they scared off a lot of legitimate people last year. We had 800,000 people apply. And then after the first wave, which was for 85,000 visas, there were still only 77,000 available for the second wave, right? What, 8,000 people got picked up? Insane. So look, I don't know. I think they missed their opportunity here, but we'll deal with it and we'll go forward and we'll learn more in the weeks on what we're doing. Okay, so look, double registration is real. I want to kind of finish this thing up real quick and then kick it over to questions, but double registration, what we're seeing, right? We're seeing some RFEs on it. We haven't seen the enforcement we thought would be on it. Things that they're upset about, yes, right, is that one of the things I think is if the staffing company applies for H-1Bs and they're a vendor applies for the same H-1Bs and there's a large number, that's a big one.
Yeah, a large overlap between that. They're seeing that as, well, you've kind of talked to one another.
Yeah.
Another one is if multiple like family members own multiple companies, you know, even if they're not related companies, just the fact that they're family members, that could raise a red flag. That's what we're also seeing.
Just saw one today. I just saw one today where a transfer H-1B company, right? They picked up somebody else's visa and transferred it, was denied because the beneficiary's visa was revoked from the previous employer, right? With a finding of fraud. And the beneficiary oftentimes doesn't know the finding of fraud, right? So here's what I want to go into right now. So those are a few examples. Other examples you're probably have to throw out are you're in the same building with somebody else that files H-1B for them. Number one, I think there are factual defenses to that. One is recruiting agencies. They come and say, here's a bunch of people to a bunch of different companies. Number two, I think you can argue that it's not wrong, right? So when you look at the final rule, they talked and they said double registrations are fine. We expect people to register the beneficiaries multiple times. If not, the big companies will get them all. Two, related companies can double register as long as there's a reasonable purpose for it. Well, I think that's a pretty low bar. So really what USCIS has decided to do is overstep what its final rule was by adding prosecution after the fact, using fraud as a reason for it, and not going through the basic elements of how you prove fraud. Number one being intent. So how can a beneficiary that didn't actually make the registration intend to do anything, right? They didn't have an action, only the company did. And again, they had an opportunity to do that this year and have the beneficiaries register, but they didn't. But they're finding them guilty of fraud, and guilty of fraud, guilty is a criminal term. They're making findings of fraud in a civil way that is following these people. So there's some litigation going on. Most of the litigation we've seen out there is litigation on behalf of the beneficiary that was found fraudulent without having action. I think there's some litigation out there for companies. I think companies can say this entire process is flawed. It's in violation of the law. It's outside the scope of what the regulation said, which, by the way, is if a company registers for the beneficiary more than once, they'll be denied, period. period. They've added this whole fraud thing after the end of the fact, and they added it after the final rule. And I'd really like to see that litigated, and we'd like to look at that if anybody has some issues on that. So look, why don't we kick it over to questions? We only have about 2 minutes.
You got it, John. Thank you so much. So
Thanks.
first question is from Chandra, and thank you for that question. It's any deadlines for filing dates, and could you elaborate?
What we just read earlier at the beginning, Chandra, if you heard it, and if you didn't, I apologize, was that they want to look at dates being after October 1st to comply with USCIS policy, whatever that means. So we did some speculation on this, and this will be more clear over time. Groups like AILA and lots of agencies will get in, or not agencies, but organizations, attorneys will talk about this, and we might get some more clarification. But what I'm assuming is that the reason that all the dates were October 1st to start with is because you can file a visa up to 6 months later, right? So if your period for filing is April 1st to June 30th, then can't you file on June 30th for the start date 6 months after June 30th? So I think that might be what it's supposed to mean, but I'm not sure yet. Let's stay in touch on it. If you send us an email to Jon@VelieLaw.com, it's spelled like my name there, JON@VELIELAW.com with your email, then we'll keep you in the loop. And like we said, we're going to do more of these webinars. We want to keep you posted. If any companies want to get on our radar so that we can keep you posted with information as it happens, we'll be glad to do that. Information, maybe updated laws and regulations, but also strategies we're talking about, right? Like we didn't really get into it today, but how to handle double registration. What is double registration? What's not double registration? I think a lot of people got scared off on that they shouldn't file visas last year just because somebody else filed a registration for somebody, and that somebody else they don't know. Right? That's completely permissible for you to file that. And you might have walked away from a good H-1B worker if you believe that was the case. Pierre, any other questions?
Great answer, John. Another good question is, can multiple companies submit the application for the same candidate, but only one can be picked? Correct? That's the question.
That's what they're saying. I think that's what they're saying. They're going to pick them. Yesh has some more insight than I have on this. They're going to pick one and then notify everybody else who was picked. Is that what you think it means, Yesh?
That's what I'm understanding from the rule. It means that when let's say 10 companies apply for or register for Pierre. Yep. They're using his unique identification, which would be, I guess, a passport number would be the yep. easiest way. Yep. And as soon as that passport number is randomly selected, that sends out a notification to all 10 companies. And at that point, any one of the 10 companies can file for the beneficiary, but it'll only be one company that can file.
Only one. Okay. So at that point, the beneficiary picks who they want to go with.
That point, beneficiary picks who they want to go with. But
interesting.
Yes, but that doesn't really. I don't see the logic behind it because it doesn't reduce the number of registrations.
And not at all, right? And it's the fact that they're making it the employer's duty to register instead of the beneficiary. That means that there's going to be 10 people registering for that one person. We heard once somebody had 70 companies register for them. That's just clogging it up. I mean, that's just ridiculous. They created the problem, and then they exasperated the problem. So right. Here we go. And then didn't fix it. So yeah, congratulations, US government. Well done.
John, another question is,
can we talk?
Please, go ahead. Yes, absolutely.
So, is it not like a unique identifier along with the company? So let's say 10 companies submit my application, but right. Is this application not tied to the company, and then whatever is picked, that company can file? Is it not like that?
Well, Chandra, what we're saying is that 10 companies can register for you. All of them have to use your passport number. I don't know what that solves. That still means 10 registrations, of which any of them could be determined to be double registrations based on USCIS's, I think, overly expanded analysis, right? That instead of just saying the same company, it's now related companies, it's now companies that have commonalities, right? This is what Yesh and I were talking about. Commonalities are now being included. Companies that might be in the same building, companies that might share an HR director, companies that might have a vendor that applied for them also, without any proof of there being a fraudulent act. They're saying that it is fraud based on really circumstantial evidence on their saying that there must have been fraud because look how closely these things are. I don't know that having more than one company being able to register for you solves a problem that they're trying to solve. That's what I'm seeing. Do you see something different than that? I think is the question.
No, what I am thinking is like, let's say company A and then company B are there, and they're totally, different companies. There is no link, relation or anything.
Sure.
And two companies are from different locations, and they don't know each other also.
Right.
So now when my application is being sent by company A and company B, and let's say the company B's application got picked.
Right.
So can't they say, okay, this application is being filed by company B, and this application should come through them like that? Is it not like that?
I think that what you're explaining is very similar to what happened last year, where it depended on the company. What USCIS is now, from my understanding, is switching it to instead of doing it through the company's application being picked, they're just saying the beneficiary's picked, and that beneficiary, how many ever companies have connected that beneficiary's passport number to their registration, they all get notified. If that makes sense.
Okay, so here's the question. They all get notified, right? But USCIS is not selecting one of the companies, or they are?
Okay.
Okay. So
USCIS is selecting just the beneficiary, and then the beneficiary, I guess, can go forward and say, here's my registration selection, and then take it to whichever company. This is what I'm understanding.
So this is like the reverse process. I can go to any company A or company B to file my application then.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
I still don't see how that eliminates double registration.
Yeah.
Because still, if you got picked by three companies and all three companies had commonalities under the way USCIS looks right now, would they let you do any of them? Right. So again, they had an opportunity to solve this, and for whatever reason chose not to solve it.
So I think
picking is where it is getting not duplicated. Like my application will be picked only once, even though I have 10 applications. So that's where the
right. So that keeps the numbers down.
Down,
right.
exactly.
Yeah. So okay.
I think
that makes some sense. Makes more sense.
So what they're saying is, even if you have 10 companies, your registration is still counted as one, because there's only one identification number that's going to be in the lottery, which helps people that only have one employer that has one employer that's going to be registering with them. It's just you're at a one-on-one kind of your chances are still one out of whatever.
Right.
Well, and regarding this filing dates, right? Like, can we file until October at any point of time if the quota is not full?
That will have to be our last question for today, guys.
I don't think so. I think you're going to probably they'll tell us, right? They haven't announced the dates yet. So what they told us is a registration fee. What they told us is it's going to be a new I-129. They told us it's going to be new filing fees. What they didn't tell us yet is the registration period or even the registration process, right? So to some extent, they told us what's different in the registration process. You need to have a passport number now. But they didn't tell us, like last year, they said it's the 1st to the 24th, right? So that'll be coming. So, hey, the good news about that is we'll do more webinars. We'll try to do these regularly. We'd love to have you come to all of them. Guys, if you have any more questions or comments, drop the email to Jon@VelieLaw.com. I'd love to take a look at it, and I'll get back with you. And anybody that wants more information about our services, what we do, what we cost, how we do it. We do that. We offer a free strategy session, not just on a visa, but on how your company approaches visas, right? So there's a lot of questions on, what's big enough, how big's a company have to do to be H-1Bs? How old do they have to be? How much money do they need to generate? How big's their office need to be? These are all things we'll talk about in future webinars, but if you want a one-on-one on your company on how to do that, I'm glad to have a complimentary strategy on that. We'll show you our technology and how we can streamline that process for you. And we'd love to get to know you better and answer any of your particular questions. So
thank you, John, and thank you everyone for joining us today. Just to wrap it up, Shirisha, thanks for your question. We have come to the end of today's time, but I promise we'll answer it in our next webinar, and we'll reach out to you in private. With that being said, please keep an eye out for the next calendar invite, and any questions or a complimentary strategy session, please email john@velielaw.com, which is in the chat of this webinar. Thank you, guys.
You can also, one last thing. You can also check out our websites, velielaw.com and OnlineVisas.com. velielaw.com is really for our corporate clients. With our firm, OnlineVisas is more of a information-centric website. You can look at both of them for all sorts of information across multiple visas. So